may only be 18, but I do think I have some experience with buying cars now, because obviously we bought Enzo, who's over there somewhere, and we've bought the Mercedes-Benz SLK 280. SLK 280 was from a private seller, Enzo was from a dealership, a main dealer. So I've sort of got experience in both fields now, and today I'm going to be sharing those experiences with you guys and giving you guys my advice and my top tips on what I would recommend you guys do when buying a car. And I literally learned all of my advice for buying cars and for buying these two, and how to not get scammed, and all the tips and tricks and all this from a guy just like myself, talking to the camera like I am talking to you guys right now. So hopefully this helps you guys a little bit, and I think it's probably best that we start where it all started for me with Enzo, but that involved moving the Mercedes out onto the road and Enzo up onto the drive. So yeah, let's do this. Alright, so that's one successful car swap later, and yeah, here's Enzo, and today we're going to be talking about, well, what the experience is like buying from a dealership, and what I would suggest, and the benefits you get over buying from a private seller, and vice versa. So, first thing is that you're going to get at a dealership that you won't get from a private seller, unless it's maybe a garage potentially, but is when you get the approved used, which is obviously where garage do something called a PPI, which is like a pre-purchase inspection pretty much before you do it, and sometimes it's like 50 points, sometimes it's a 500-point inspection. Basically it just means that they go over the whole car, make sure all the bolts are there, etc., check everything over, and make sure the car that you're buying is actually going to run well and is going to be all right. And obviously what you also then get is a guarantee, and that if the car dies, it's their fault, not yours, and you get a warranty as well. So this car has a 2-year warranty. I've used it for a couple of things already that was wrong with the car, and it works pretty well. It's more seamless, whereas if you did it from a private seller, you're not going to get that. You're on your own. You've got to deal with it yourself, like with the Mercedes, the washer fluid bottle obviously is broken, so I've got to replace that myself. It's not under warranty, and if it had had a pre-purchase inspection, that would have been notified and fixed, or at least, you know, written out beforehand. And so yeah, that's one benefit you get from buying from a dealership over a private seller. But that's not all. There are plenty more positives that we're going to go over, and also a few negatives. But yeah, all right, on to the next thing. All right, so the next thing that you're going to obviously find, I think if you just observe from a dealership, as is anyway, is that the cars that you buy from a dealership are going to tend to be a lot newer than the cars you would buy from a private seller. So they're going to be probably maybe 10 years old at most. So at the moment you probably find like 2015 cars onwards at a dealership, and that's because the garages sort of prefer to stock cars at that age because they're easier to sell, I suppose. But the other thing you're going to find, and this is the first negative, but it comes sort of hand in hand with that, is that the cars that are there are going to be more expensive. One, because the car's newer, but two, because you're paying for that service. That pre-purchase inspection takes, you know, money. There's admin fees, all of this that you charge on top of it, and so it's going to be a more expensive experience. But sometimes you're paying for the benefits that it offers. So sometimes it's better if you've got the money and you see a car at a dealership, then yeah, sometimes it's worth buying it over a private seller if you can get one from a dealership and not just from a private seller. Now, on to our first sort of, I suppose, negative, is that, think about it, when you go to a dealership, the people there are there to do a job. They're there to sell the car to you. They're not there to be your friend. So you're going to potentially get a less personal connection with the seller, because you're not technically buying from that person. You're buying from the garage, and they're just getting paid a wage and commission, so they don't actually have to almost treat you as well as maybe a private seller would be. And that is a factor, I suppose, in the experience. Obviously, you're maybe getting a nicer car, but the experience of buying that car can sometimes be a bit judgmental, and it can be not as nice of an experience. But sometimes you get good ones. You know, when I bought Enzo, the people where I bought them from were very, very nice, very helpful. They've been very helpful every time it's gone in for like a service or something to be repaired, and you know, they've been very good. But I've heard a lot of experiences where that's not been the case, and that is just a thing to look out for. And the big thing I would say is, if you don't feel comfortable in the dealership, regardless of how good the car is, if the people you're selling from don't seem necessarily as nice, maybe they're not as trustworthy, maybe they've being a bit judgmental towards you, don't buy from them because they don't necessarily deserve your money. So, you know, go somewhere else, find a different car because there's plenty out there. That's what I would say, and that is, I think, a big factor is know your self worth when buying a car. Don't get scammed, don't overpay, and don't give money to someone who you don't necessarily trust. That's what I would say. But speaking of trust and money, again, is when you buy from a dealership, you know your money is going to be going directly to the company. You're not necessarily going to get scammed. You're going to get the car at the end of it. And that's another big thing. So obviously you do all the transfers in house, and then you're there to collect the car. You pay a lot of it. You do the bank transfer the day of, if not a day, when you sign the documents and the car is then in your hands. Whereas if you buy from a private seller, you might, like when I bought the Mercedes, I sent the money over, or I sent part, like 500, 600 quid of the money over a couple of days before, and then on collection day, I gave him the rest of the money. So when you think about it, I could have got scammed out of $1,000 there, and that's a thing. But you'll get with the private seller that you won't, you don't run the risk of being scammed necessarily at a dealership, not a garage. A garage is a different story. It could be a private seller, one of those like private family owned garages. That's different, but usually they have to go through certain regulations and everything to get to that point. So your chances of getting scammed are a lot less than if you buy from someone on Facebook Marketplace or eBay or a private seller on Auto Trader. I mean, I haven't personally got scammed. I've been very lucky, but you could get scammed, and that is a risk you run when you buy from a private seller over someone from a dealership. Yeah, just take it into account. And again, if you don't trust the seller, don't buy the car. Also, with the dealership, one thing I would say is read the reviews of that dealership. See if other people have had good experiences or bad experiences. Have they trusted them, and has their trust been rewarded with a good car and not being scammed? If there's bad reviews of that garage, don't buy from them. It's not worth your time. It's not worth your money. It's not worth the risk. They could be great, but they could also be awful. And check, is it just 1, 2 people with bad experiences, or is it 90% of the people? If most people have had a good experience, then you're going to be completely fine. You might have a slight issue, but then you can think 9 times out of 10 they're going to solve that issue for you. So, you know, that's the thing. And another thing is when you buy from a private seller, unless they have a big, big history with selling cars, you're not going to know. There's not going to be any information out there about them. So you may or may not have more problems. And you're going into it blind, basically. You don't know anything about the seller. You don't know anything about the car. So that's why you've got to be very, 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 very careful. And when we go into buying from a private seller, I'm going to give you the advice on what I would do to ensure that you get the best chance of having a great car and a good experience. So, yeah, a couple more things to cover on dealership, and then we will move on to private sellers. Okay, so going on to buying and the buying process. This is a benefit that you get from a dealership over a private seller is stuff like finance. Now, I personally wouldn't take out finance. If I was going to take out a loan of some sort to get the rest of the money, I would do it through a bank because there's benefits. If you want to look into it, look it up. I'm not a finance expert. I can't really tell you too much, but I would go through a bank. That's what I did with Enzo to get the last sort of couple of grand I needed to buy the car, and now that's all being paid off and it's completely fine. But another thing I'd say is when you're buying a car, is the times to buy. Now you can get some really good deals here if you do this properly, and you can take a lot of money off of cars. I got a couple of grand off of this car just by going at the right time, and I got a couple of freebies as well. So what I would say is the best times to buy are the end of the month and on a rainy day, and a lot of dealerships will tell you this, and they will let you into the secret if they need to sell cars, and that's because dealerships have a certain thing called quotas. Now, quotas are a target that they've got to reach before the end of, say, the month, or the end of the day, or the end of the year. And on days like the end of the month, they're going to be willing to do better deals because they've got to sell a certain amount of cars to reach that target, and they don't want you to walk away and go to another competitive garage. They want you to buy from them, so they will give you a cheaper price just to get the car across the line. And another thing they will do is on a rainy day, if they're having a slow business day, they don't want to sell no cars in one day, so they will give you a better deal. So if it's the end of the month and it's a rainy day, and maybe at the end of the year, so say it was like December the 31st and it was raining, go in there, you can get a cracking deal on the car. I went on the 31st of a month and got a much better deal, purely because of the day I went in, and I got a much better deal than someone had they have gone in on the 25th or the 15th, and so you can get a much better deal just by going at the right time. And yeah, it just works out better. So keep that trick in mind when you're going in there. Try and hold out to the end of the month if you can, unless you desperately need the car. And yeah, you will save yourself some massive, massive, massive money. These days, it's not going to be as big as it would maybe 10, 15 years ago, because the internet, internet prices is all competitive now, but you can still make some good savings, maybe even get some freebies. I mean, I got a free boot mat in the back of the car because they wanted to sell me the car. So what can I say? It's a genius move. Most people will tell you to do it. The final thing that they'll offer you as well is something to do, obviously, with the inside of this car and where I'm sitting right now, because they will offer you a test drive. Now, private sellers are going to be less likely to offer you a test drive because it's their car, they're under their own private insurance, but a dealership, they can offer you a test drive with no issues at all because they're set up to do it. So if they offer you that test drive, take it. If they don't offer it to you, ask for one. If they don't give you one, don't buy the car, because there's obviously something going to be wrong with it that they don't want to let you find out until you've bought the car and you're driving it off the forecourt. So get that test drive. It's 100% worth it. Go out for it. It's only about half an hour, but you'll get that feel as to whether the car is right or not. You know, even if you've never driven a car like it before, you'll understand halfway through. You'll go, yeah, this is a good car, or something doesn't feel quite right. You'll just sense it. And I did this with Enzo. Well, my dad drove it because I didn't have my license at the time. But yeah, he said it was right. I could feel it from the back seat even that it was it was the right car and it wasn't having any issues. And turns out a year later we were right, and that test drive just reassured us of these facts. Now, there's things you have to do when you're buying with a private seller that are different, and it's a slightly longer process for you, and maybe it will cost you a little bit of money, but with a dealership, it's pretty straightforward. When buying a car, you go in there, take a look at the car, you like it, test drive it, find out if it feels right for you, sort out finances, and buy the car, because you know it's going to be more trustworthy. And you can ask questions about history, and stuff, and they'll know a lot of it because they'll have already done a history check. You would have to do a history check yourself, which I'll go into if you're buying from a private seller. But that's pretty much everything to do with the dealership. So yeah, let's back Enzo off of the driveway, get the Mercedes back on the driveway so we can use that prop to talk about private sellers. All right, let's do this. Now, for those of you who've been following the channel for about a month, you would know that recently we bought this Mercedes-Benz SLK 280 from a private seller. Now, this was the first time I've ever bought from a private seller, and the first time in a while that my family had bought from one. So it was a bit of an experience, but luckily it went well. But today I'm going to be talking about my experience with buying from a private seller, and what I would suggest that you guys do when buying from a private seller that I learned from people on YouTube like this. And how it varies and how different it is from buying from a dealership. So the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that you won't get a pre-purchase inspection, and the fact you've got to do it yourself. So you can either hire someone like a mechanic or from a garage, maybe one that you trust does your MOTs or something, to look over the car and check it's good for purchase. Or if you know sort of a little bit about cars, you can go around and check it yourself. You just got to look out for things that are glaringly obvious as, okay, that's a problem, that's not good, all of this and that, and maybe try and find some leverage where you can maybe knock some money off the value of the car and get a cheaper price for it, or you go to the point where you just don't buy the car at all. And a good way to do that is to go to a garage or just to check it over yourself. When you're there, you're looking for rust and missing parts, missing bolts, any damage that didn't appear in pictures or anything, like on Auto Trader, for example, which is it's pretty simple to do. It only take you about half an hour, but it's definitely well worth it. And yeah, that's definitely something I would recommend. Also, another big reason as to why I do a pre-purchase inspection is because you're going to get little to no warranty at all. So if anything goes wrong, you're not really going to have the chance to fix it. Some places, if it's like a private garage, might give like a 30-day warranty to bring it back, and have them check over it and fix any issues. But most of them, you're not going to get anything, so you're on your own. So you want to make sure you're getting the best possible car for the money, and you're not wasting your money, or you're going to have to spend money on hidden issues you didn't even know existed. So yeah, that's another big reason, and another big thing that differs from a garage, because a garage you're going to get at least a year's warranty. Private seller, you're probably not going to get a warranty at all. Now, another thing I would definitely recommend, I don't know what's going on with the wind today in my hair, but it seems to be a common theme in every video, but apart from that, what I would say you definitely want to do is try and get a test drive. Now, I had a test drive with the Mercedes, it was good. And he offered a test drive, in the end, and that's okay. But some people, if they're really reluctant to give you a test drive, and they won't even drive the car themselves with you in the passenger seat, then there's probably something wrong with the car. And as I said, do not buy it. It is not worth it. You can find a much better one, or you can find another one in your price range. Unless it was the only one in the world, even though I'm not sure I'd still buy it. But you've got to make sure that the car's good, and you're the buyer. They're there to serve you, so you've got to make sure that you get everything you want and you feel comfortable before you buy the car. So definitely try and get a test drive, and ask them loads and loads of questions about the car, and just keep asking everything you want to know. Get a full list of everything you need to know until you feel like you're in a position where you can confidently say, yes, I'm buying a car that's right for me and that is actually good. Because the worst thing in the world is buying a car and being scammed, or it breaks down, or it's not what they said it was, and that is absolutely awful. So just do everything you can to avoid it. If there was nothing you could do to avoid it, everything checked out, and it still happens, then it's bad, but at least you tried everything to avoid it, and it still happened, and at that point it's probably just fate. So sort it out cross that bridge when you get it. The worst thing, you don't cross that bridge when you get there, but the worst thing is knowing that you didn't do everything right, and you probably could, and you had a slight chance of avoiding it if you just done the other thing right. But hey ho, happens. And yeah, just put yourself in the best position to be buying a good car, I suppose. That's basically the bottom line of it. Now, something else you're going to get when you're buying from a private seller is the fact you're going to get cars of all ages. So obviously this Mercedes is a 20-year-old car, so probably falls out of the bracket of a car that you buy from a garage, right? Because it's not going to be stocking 20-year-old Mercedes now, are they? Mercedes aren't going to be stocking these because they got newer models and better ones. But when you're buying from a private seller, you could buy a car from 1983. Even older than that, you can get anything. So that's one of the benefits, I suppose, buying from a private seller, is you can get any car that you want, and it's going to be somewhere on the internet, and someone's going to be selling one, because someone is always selling a car, unless it's like a one of one. Even then, you can probably still find it. But yeah, so just always look around, because the car market, especially in the private thing, there's loads, right? There's millions of cars going every single day, and you can definitely find the right one. So don't jump into something, don't rush into it. Take your time, look around and pick the best one. But yeah, you're going to find cars of all shapes and sizes. I didn't even really know this one existed until I found it on Auto Trader, and I saw it. I thought V6 engine, we've got to buy it. So you're going to find cars you didn't even know existed. So keep your options open. Keep your mind nice and wide. Just look at everything. Don't narrow your scope down too much unless you know exactly what you want, and it's like your dream car or your dream first car, or the exact car you need, because you might find something that's much better. Because I was going to buy an Audi TT, I bought this instead, and I think that turned out to be the better purchase. So also shout out to my mum as well for finding this car originally, but I didn't really even know these existed, to be honest, but I love it. And keep your options open. Right, moving on to the buying process of one of these cars. Now, you're obviously not going to get finance, because private seller ain't going to offer you finance, but you can get bank loans and all of that if you have to. If you really have to do that, if you could buy it outright, I would, because it just saves the hassle of having to pay monthly payments. But what I would say is, when you go to view the car or to buy it, always take a second person with you, 2, 3 people. Now, you may see the jokes on the internet, the memes on like Instagram Reels or TikTok, where my bro's hidden behind the window tint with a gun. Obviously, don't do that. That's not right. But take someone, because 1, you don't want to get scammed. 2, you want a second opinion. And 3, you don't want to get kidnapped. If there's 2 of you, you're less likely to get kidnapped. And as I would say, always take your dad if you can, because that man will negotiate a deal that nobody ever knew existed, and he will pick out the tiniest issue that could potentially be catastrophic. So take that Superman with you. But yeah, always take a second person. It could be a friend, family member, anyone who you trust to give you the right opinion with you. And also for safety, because 2 people turning up is a 2-on-1, right? They're going to be less likely to kidnap you if it was one of those setups. But look, it's not likely to happen. So more than less, take someone for a second opinion, to take a second look over the car, because you're going to be there with like rose tinted glasses, right? You're going to be there thinking, I want this car. I'm not going to find any. I don't want to find any issues with it, but they will find the issues because they're thinking more sensibly. So listen to them if they find a big issue, and you can always find another car. But always take a second person. And another thing that I would definitely be doing before I buy any car is using something like Car Vertical, right? So this isn't sponsored, but I use Car Vertical. It's like £30 for a check, right? £25 for a check. If you use someone's code, it's lower, but I did it, and you can get, like, if it's ever been salvaged and they haven't told you, if it's got any existing finance, which you don't want, because then it could be repossessed out of your possession, even though you didn't take finance on it, missed payments, or it could be stolen. So you want to make sure that you're getting the car that the seller says you're getting. So a Car Vertical check, or any car history check, is definitely worthwhile, and it's worth the money for peace of mind. And also think about it, you spend 30 quid, you're avoiding losing out on a potential £3,000, £10,000 car because it was stolen, the police came and collected it, or the bank or the finance people came and repossessed it. So always do a Car Vertical check. I'll leave a link to Car Vertical in the description. You could use someone else, but I use Car Vertical. It's just the best one for me. And I think if you haven't got much experience with car, checkers, use Car Vertical. It's worth the money. You can do bundles as well. I've done checks on cars I haven't bought because I was going to buy it. They didn't turn out to be right, so I didn't buy it. And that goes for anything. Salvage auctions, it's good because then you know what you're getting into. Used cars from a private seller, you could do one from a garage, but usually they'll do one, they'll provide one if you ask for it anyway, so that's all right. But yeah, I would definitely say do a Car Vertical check, because I did it with this one, and I know that this car is completely mine. It's not going to have anyone come and get it. It's not been salvaged, so it's completely good. And all I know is that from a £30 check, and you get the whole history, mileage history, so no mileage, fraud, anything like that. You can see all the graphs, how many owners it's had, when the ownership's changed, when the reg's changed, anything like that. Is it been imported or exported? Because some of this stuff you're not going to know, but because if you do this check, you will find out, and that is just something that gives extra peace of mind, knowing the full history of the car, regardless of if it's 5 years old, 2 years old, or 20 years old, like Enzo. Like the Merc. Also, and the final thing I'd say for this video is know what you're getting yourself into, and I can't state that enough. Just know what you're getting yourself into. You don't want to be thrown into something you can't handle. So always do all the necessary checks. Don't overspend. Don't finance something if you can't afford the payments. Know exactly that you can do, you can afford everything. Any issues that come with it, you can actually deal with. You've got the money to fix any problems. Don't overspend. Don't go into debt because of the car, and just know exactly what you're getting yourself into. Know everything about the car, about the seller, as much as you can, obviously. Whether that's from a dealership or from a private seller, do your research. Know everything about the car, their common faults, what could go wrong, how much it would cost to fix them, how you have to maintain the car depending on the age of the car, what their values are from other things. I like to do like a we buy any car check, so that I can get a rough value as if the car, if I didn't want it, how much would they give me, how much am I going to lose if I have to quickly sell it, and just to get all the knowledge and just know exactly every single thing about what you're getting yourself into, just for peace of mind, and also because then you're not going to get jump scared or jumped by some hidden issue that just costs you a lot of money, a lot of time, and a lot of stress, because we don't want that. We want it to be a nice, clean, peaceful experience and a nice, relaxed experience. So yeah, always know what you get yourself into. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching today's video. Hope you all did enjoy it. Do remember to leave a like, subscribe, you know the rest. Everyone on social millions of times, I am sure. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next one. Guys, just quickly before we end, I was having a thought, right? I was talking about doing the car. I want to get a customized reg for this car at some point, because this is obviously the reg at the moment. But I was wondering, do we do a thing with my initials? Do we do something about the engine? Do we do something about SLK? Or do we take a common theme and take the last 3 letters from Enzo and stick them on this one, so we can sort of link the 2 cars? I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below, and that'd be much appreciated. But yeah, see you all in the next one. I'm actually going to go now. Peace.